Hey, this is Justin. Here we go. So this is recording of a live podcast. We'll get some of this stuff captured on the on what is it called? On Clubhouse. This is a walk and a talk, getting some of the ideas that are rattling around inside the head, outside the head, into a way that could potentially be useful. And here we go. So let's do this. We'll call this one Collective Brainstorm to get this thing started. I'm going to schedule this one here just to get it going. Collective Brain Storm today at 10:25 a.m. Recording of a podcast. Here we go. All right, so we'll publish this. We will get it started here. I'm going to add this to my calendar, add to the Google Calendar first. Boom, it's added here. Let's see what we got going on here. Boom, boom, boom. Start the room, share, recording. Start the room. Let me tweet this one out. Why not? Because we are. And we'll go live. We'll start the room. Okay. So this is a capture. Here we go. Live in the room here just to get it started. I don't know how you're going to hear some snow crackling down in the beginning. This is a morning brainstorm. Just getting ideas that are rattling around inside the head. Outside the head, let's not have the stylus rattling around as much in here. So we're just going to gap for a little bit. See if anybody actually joins the session to get some of the ideas that are, rattling around out and starting to get the day started. Let me set up the bat signal, start to invite some people in to the conversation. See if they want to. Clubhouse would like to access your contest. Of course you can. Pinged currently off, so we can't reach them for you. Use message. I don't know what that means. Oh, okay, that's cool. There's a notification that goes on here just to get it started here. All right. Yeah, why not? All right. Yeah, okay, so we got that started. All right. We'll see if anybody pops in live for the conversation. So again, some ideas that are rattling around. So something new to me, or newish to me, is all these companies opening up these opportunities for a gig economy. So I just signed up for PwC's gig economy platform. It's really interesting. The whole idea is, hey, Ben, how are you? Welcome to the session. We're recording this as a live podcast, or not a live podcast, it's a recording for a podcast in the background. So more than welcome to join the stage if you'd like, or if you're working in the background, that works as well. I was just starting to share about the gig platforms that are out there. So I haven't been in the market for a job for 10 years at this point. 10 years? Yeah, about 10 years at this point in time. But there's all these platforms that are set up to basically meet people where they are. So they can be short-term assignments, they can be W-2, they can be corp to corp, they can be consulting arrangements. So all the different choices. So I have to invite Ben to the stage. Let me see if I invite him. Start a closed booth, invite to speak. I'll invite him to speak. I don't know if I had to invite him or he has to join as well. So all these new little platforms are out there. So fun little playground to be able to start to mess around with. But some actually create the formula for people to be able to, structure for people to be able to set up their corporations. And it looks like some of them actually even give the opportunity for people to be able to set up mini agencies. So I was looking at some of the Amazon startup businesses. So the beautiful thing about Amazon is you assume that the stuff is systemized. And this is a non sequitur, separate conversation. Oh, it's a non sequitur. That's the right word. It's a separate conversation. I was looking at some of those. They're like trucking businesses, and there's a ton of liability that goes around with those. Probably effective because partnership with Amazon, although I'm sure some would say that Amazon would be taking the lion's share of the equitable piece of the relationship. But putting that aside, it's probably work. Now we have the opportunity to turn short-term gigs into businesses. And why I'm excited about it is the opportunity to really being able to build up skills and to go for things that are a little outside of the skills area but might match the passion area. So, I heard a bear. I'm not even in the woods yet, but I just heard something weird. So we start to match some of the things that are outside of our normal course of operations. So I'm very excited about this. Fell asleep at about 8:30 last night, slept till about 12:30, and then was up till 4, just sort of setting some of the items up. Sorry, Ben. Did something. I can't tell what sorry said. Ben's probably, he apologized for something. I don't know if it was a message. It's actually interesting how it came up. Still navigating the Clubhouse space. So excited about that. Also, this is a good structure. I could be live on Spreaker right now doing the live podcast. I'm recording this one in the background. I'm intending for the audio to not drop. I'm intending for the audio to stay live for the whole portion of this conversation. Also very curious how the sound quality is going to be for this piece of the conversation and how that's actually going to work, if it's going to be a quality or you're going to hear a bunch of background noise. You probably are going to hear me walking and ruffling a little bit, so we're going to step up the mic game a little bit, but excited to be able to do these pieces. I've been going live on LinkedIn, but that requires being in front of the computer. It requires camera, requires decent cognitive load to make any of that stuff start to make any of that stuff start to work. So I like this as a little bit of a better option to be able to actually just record and have the podcast components, and we can have it be a live podcast, but I don't know what the point is necessarily of it being a live podcast if we're live here on Clubhouse. Might as well do the live portion with people here on Clubhouse and have them listen into the Clubhouse piece of it. Third thing I want to talk about, Yak just went live. Yak is yelling across cubicles, YAC. Yak just went live with Rooms today, which I think is going to be, I don't think it's an attempt at an alternative, no, because they're not as focused on the social aspects, they're focused on the meeting aspects, but it's Rooms similar that we can do in Clubhouse. I'm very curious with the Yak pieces if they're going to be, actually let me invite one of the Yak guys into the room here and see what's actually going on here. Very curious with the Yak stuff. Let me invite Jordan into the room, see if he's available to come in. And with the Yak stuff, if what the intention is of the platforms and how they're going to lost my train of thought. Yeah, what the intention is, if it's for the team meetings. Oh, but the big piece is going to be recording, because that could serve the purposes of what we're actually doing here, just going into a Yak room and recording some components for the podcast. And why I like podcasts are interesting from a distribution standpoint. I probably record some of the most unlistenable podcasts out there based on sound quality and just the rambling nature of the stuff that we're working on. By the way, these podcasts are inspired by Mills, who used to be with Us Two Games. I don't know if he still is, but it's starting his own venture. And when we were talking when he started his podcast, he was looking at doing interviews. And I like doing interviews with people, but those sort of planned interviews, just everybody's sort of doing it that way. That's why I like a little bit more of the serendipitous stuff. So the structure of mine, or I go for a walk and talk, and I do this stuff for an audience of one, and that being myself. If somebody wants to listen, that is great. If somebody wants to contribute to the conversation, even better. But if not, it's still a successful activity, because we're getting ideas that are rattling around inside the head, outside the head, and into the world where they could potentially make a difference. So very excited about that. Excited about the possibility of the Yak rooms to be able to capture. Because what I love about Yaks is each individual one can be broken down to nuggets. So what did I talk about? I talked about the gig economy here. I talked about the gig economy. I talked about the Yak rooms. I talked about a couple of different things here. I'm going to start to break those into different components. Now, a way to be able to do that is air. So once this hits podcast, that's what I like when stuff hits podcast. Once this hits podcast, then it can be broken apart into its separate components in air. It can also be moved and transcribed through Otter, and then I've also been messing around with Speak AI to really be able to do some analytics. So the whole idea is we just yap about the stuff that we want to yap about, and then and then we can break it down into, start to create some workflow that might have these ideas turn into something actually real in the world. So it can be a fleeting thought in one of these conversations that could actually turn into a full business or a full venture or a full partnership with other people. I was also thinking about something else today. as far as I start looking at compensation around the next thing that I do. So I realize where, as far as who I want to be compensated by, number one is governments. Because I think government contracts can have a larger scale impact. Second is large companies. Third is smaller companies. And fourth is individuals. But who I want to impact is first is individuals. Second is smaller companies. Third is governments. And four is larger companies. And I could probably interchange the third and fourth as far as the larger companies. So there has to be a little bit of matching to be able to impact some of the individuals. Now, inside of governments, you do have individual people, obviously, and inside of large corporations, you also do have individual people, but they become different when they start representing or being part of a large organization, right? There's some extreme benefits that come along with partnering with people inside of large organizations, and there's some extreme taxes that come along with partnering with people inside of large organizations. But just being able to spread out and to be able to think about those pieces separately has been inspiring for me and has been empowering for me as a better way to start to look at some of the stuff that we're doing. Okay, so let's talk about phone service right now. I am in the mountains with mediocre phone service right now. I'm down to one bar. I'm getting a poor connection message. I don't even know that people are able to hear this message specifically. So I'm making one of two pivots. I'm on AT&T here. I'm going to upgrade my AT&T phone as a first opportunity to do that, to give AT&T an opportunity, because they just have the benefits of the economies of scale with my wife's plan. But second is going to be switching over to Verizon, which is going to be more expensive, but if will allow for more, that's what I'm looking for, more opportunity to get a better signal, especially if we're out doing some of this walking and talking thing. So I'm committing to the walking and talking. It might be more beneficial to be with Verizon and just cut the ties with AT&T. Although I do like the challenges. I like the challenges that come along with, hey, do I have a signal here? How do I compensate for the tech when we don't have a signal here? What are the choices that we're making in the moment when we do have a signal and we don't have a signal? So let me start talking about LinkedIn Lives. What I've been thinking of doing for LinkedIn Lives, as opposed to actually doing them as real live sessions, having them be more broadcasts of these audio sessions. This is where I think the real empowering work is. The real work that I enjoy doing is just the walking and talking, having conversations with friends real time, or with other people who want to join in on the conversation. However, to get broader distribution, that starts to happen. That stuff happens when we start to connect with other people and to be able to share with other people. So we'll play around with those, a couple of different options. The other nice thing that happens when we work on the audio is it doesn't take up as much bandwidth to do the audio piece as it does the video piece. It doesn't take as much power, so we can go for a longer period of time working that way. So we'll play around with this as different opportunities. Truck just passed by. You'll hear some of the audio in the background, but ultimate dream and ultimate vision is to just go for long walks and talks and have enough workflow and in the background where things can happen and things can work. And how I look at this is stuff that the stuff on the one end that we're most passionate about is like, for me it's walking and talking, it's passion. And then it's like, what's actually working out in the world? There's not a bunch of people out there that are building large enterprises that are having a large impact, and both from an economical and a human impact aspect, that are doing that on walking and talking, right? They're doing it a different way. They're doing it through technology, and they're doing it through different ways. So, but if we we can go one of different directions. We change our behavior, our individual behavior and passions, to most closely match what's the stuff that's happening out there in the world, or we keep on doing what we're doing and get better and better at that, and then start to look where where we're getting closer and closer to those impacts. But for me, there's not a lot more liberating than just going on a walk like this and sharing thoughts, and honestly doing it by myself, and then seeing what actually happens if people enjoy, and that's great. But I'm actually more interested in this getting into people's ear holes later on, after the fact, not necessarily live, just after the fact. But I do like the opportunity for it to be live and to be able to provide access, because the problem with, I'm going to say something that just contradicted the last thing that I said here, the problem with doing things by doing things completely asynchronously, there's no real opportunity for other people to participate. They feel like a consumer, and we don't want people to. I personally don't want people to feel like a consumer. I feel like as a participant. Number one, I don't want, I want people to. If somebody listens to this for an hour, I want them to get 10 hours worth of benefit out of it. So what I much prefer is they listen to it for 3 minutes. Let serendipity take over, and then they get 30 minutes of benefit out of it, or 300 minutes of benefit out of it. That's the design. The challenge is we don't know, when we're looking at the needle in the haystack, we don't know where the gem is inside of these conversations. We don't know. Like when I went, all I knew that was happening is I was going to go for a walk, I was going to start to talk, and then I was going to start to record some of the ideas on the back end. I didn't know where the rest of the conversation was going to go, or where we were going to take it. So that is why we just go through the walk and talks. Now, I think the beautiful thing here is we've got a draft of an audio message in the background that can be published in podcast format and can get into people's ears in a way where there can be some real impact. And maybe every once in a while we do some stuff that is live on video. But my preference is to be more when we talk about the augmented reality, which I don't know this is necessarily a perfect example of augmented reality, but we talk about being out there real in the world and just speaking, right? And having conversations with people. When I do realize, let me empower this thought a little bit, or a lot, what I realize is the more that we speak empowering things, number one, you start kicking off other people having the opportunity to hear what's happening. Number two, you start kicking off some universal benefits, right? You put stuff out, you put like good stuff out into the ether that can potentially be more positive and empowering. You put that stuff out there, and you see what comes back out into the world. So potentially when the inspiration hits, we'll do some more of the stuff on video, but the real inspiring and empowering work for me personally is going on the long walks and just talking on these walks and then coming up with the different ideas. One of the ones I just got a little bit more clarity about, I've been having trouble getting everything set up with AT&T. I've been having challenges with getting everything set up with AT&T. Now we will, now just thinking about just going to get the phone with Verizon and just leaning into Verizon, not having the phone be an issue, which would totally empower the just going on long walks and being able to talk and yap and share some of the different ideas. I think that is the right move. The Verizon store is closer. I've been trying to get the AT&T phone for a couple of weeks now, and it's just been problem after problem after problem. Not that Verizon's going to be 1,000 times better, but I do think that it will, it's not going to be 1,000 times better, but I think it will be an easier play. And there's a Verizon store that's close enough to us that we can start making some decisions that way. So we'll think about that. We'll play with that. We'll work on some of the different ideas. We'll see if there's some discounted plans inside the company. That would be a nice way to start to look at it as well, to see if there's some company plans that are beneficial from a Verizon perspective. Okay, I don't know how interested people are in me talking about my cell phone here. So this is where, when I start getting a little bit bored with the conversation, where I stop yapping and then start turning off and move something else. So we'll move into a podcast listening through through air in a few minutes. When I listen to podcasts, I do it on air and then provide some of my notes in the background. Or I might do a read-through of, do some of the work on Ultra Learning, the book Ultra Learning, and share some of the thoughts based on the notes from Ultra Learning. So thanks so much for anybody who's listening to this, and have an amazing day. Let's end this podcast.